With Malthael's arrival, death itself has descended upon the Nexus, and this time, no one will stop him.
Welcome back to the Blizzard Arena here in Burbank, California. We're in the middle of Group C, HGC 2017 group stages. We just watched Team Dignitas take the first win out of this group. They claimed a spot on the BlizzCon stage for next week. Up next, our elimination match. We have the Red Canids from Latin America up against Tempest from Korea. One of these teams is gonna go home. We're gonna find out right now. Let's head over to the chief button masher himself, Tim Trixler Frazier.
Thank you, Kevin. A day of exciting games so far, but Kevin is correct. Reality is about to set in. One of these teams will be going home after this match. It's Tempest and Red Canids facing off. And before we jump in, introductions, of course, Caldor here, Dreadnought, and Gillyweed to talk about the series. Gillyweed, all the way down here on the left, Red Canids this morning really did surprise us.
Yeah, they came in swinging. They got a game off of Roll20. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't enough to be able to get the victory and avoid this elimination match. But that was their first game win at an international event this entire year. So it has to be at least something for them to take home and even just to take into this series.
I completely agree. I mean, I feel like from that region, you know, and struggling for so very long to be able to get that, there's a level of like kind of proving to yourself that suddenly makes, you know, it makes you wonder kind of the future and the performance level that they're going to have.
Yeah, I can only say I was really impressed by them. I did not expect from that series to start it with a victory for them, so that was actually pretty cool. Can I also just say that I feel very at home at this desk?
It does feel a little homey, right? Like I came up here and I was like, oh,
nice.
You guys look familiar. Well, familiar as well is the group right now, Group C. We did dub it earlier, the Group of Death, and so far it has been proving to be an awesome day of matches. Team Dignitas has made it all the way through. They will be advancing to next week. Congratulations to them. Roll20 will fall to the next match, but first we have to figure out who will move forward here between Red Canids and Tempest. Tempest showing some task racer play earlier in the day as well as some mechanical skill, but it wasn't enough against Dig, Caldor.
Yeah, not quite. They definitely posed a big threat, at least in the first series, but then later on you could really see that Dignitas focused a lot harder on their rotations, and it was exceptional Tracer and Tesla play from Mina and Snitch on the last map in particular, something that they also showed later on against Roll20. But overall, Tempest is definitely a super strong contender, and it's not going to be easy for the Red Canids.
Dread, with you, I know we were talking about the match a little bit afterwards. Was there anything that you want to see more from when it comes to Tempest?
For Tempest, I feel like for this series specifically, the biggest thing for them would be kind of catering a little bit more towards their macro. I feel like that has been their biggest weakness within the region. It's no different here. And more importantly, into a team like Red Canids, ultimately, I do feel like the best advantage that you'll see Red Canids to get over Tempest will be through the macro game. So trying to be able to stop the bleeding there and, you know, make sure that the team fights are always on even footing or advantageous for them.
Looking for crisp calls here, Dreadnought is. Now let's go ahead and talk about Jay Shritta from the Red Canids. He's been with this crew for years now, it seems like, Gillyweed, and you want to talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, Jay Shritta is the only person from Latin America who has represented the region at every single international event in Heroes of the Storm history. And this is it for him with Latin America, not in Heroes of the Storm in general, but he qualified with this team and he moved to Canada. He is making a play, putting everything on the line to try to get into North American HGC, whether he joins up with a team there or he plays through the open division. He even told us, I'm not going home. I told my friends and family I'm not coming back until I make it into the HGC. And so this is sort of a tryout for him, but it's also, you know, his last chance to be with these guys that he's been playing with for a very long time.
Two things about Jay Shritta that really surprises me is, one, he's putting in the work. He is playing every single day in North American Hero League, working on those mechanics. And secondly, his team supports him. They were all smiling and happy about him, wanting to go for this dream and pursuing it. They all support and want him to do well. Dread, how exciting is that as a player to hear about?
I mean, it shows that it's more... It shows that they have a perspective that is they're a part of something bigger than themselves, right? Like that is not necessarily the immediate our team and it's all about me and my success. It's more of like we're here growing as a group, trying to be the best players in the world, and that one of us is willing to make that leap of faith. I think it is absolutely astounding to see that level of support from them and that they're willing to back him up like that.
And what it really is amazing to me is that if you are in your region just straight up in the best team, it's always you get to every international tournament. It's always like a free ticket for you. You have to work for it within the region, but it's so much easier to have the competition there than if you go to a major region. So that commitment alone, and that we have not only Jay Schritter, but for example also Arcana, that goes to Europe for that is absolutely amazing, and I really hope that it works out for them.
I hope it does as well. Now, enough about Red Canids. Let's talk about Tempest, a team of champions, plus HA2, who I would argue the champion himself when it comes to Artanis. Caldor, what are your thoughts about this team and so far the progress they've had in this game?
Tempest is to me really interesting because if I compare them in the matches that we've seen so far, but also in the scrims that we've been able to watch, they feel like they are definitely the weakest of the Korean teams. They are extremely fun team. I mean, these guys have team spirit in abundance. It's absolutely amazing. You can see that they enjoy every single minute that they spend here, but at the same time, they feel a little bit less refined than other Korean teams. And I think especially when we have, for example, Hong Kono on the second warrior here playing a Muradin, he oftentimes just goes incredibly deep and makes it very difficult for his team to properly follow up, and oftentimes it ends up with them having to try and save him.
Well, I think the problem with that is that they're still working on that flexibility, that 4-flex and a support setup that they have, and that keeps them from being able to have their truly refined roles. But I'm also concerned about the consistency for this team in the past. They would go in and then they defeat L5, now Ballistics, in the league play, and then the next time they play them in league play in a tiebreaker, they lose 0-3. That happened versus MVP Black. Same thing when we look at the Eastern Clash. The consistency has not been there for this team, and it's a lot because they are running on emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know that that'll amount to anything here, but potentially in the future, maybe even against Roll20, if they can defeat Red Canids.
I feel like the only way that we can see that be highlighted here within the series, because I completely agree with you, it does feel like it's such a coin toss what version of Tempest you're going to see on that day. If maybe right out the gates, Red Canids, you know, they come out swinging, they end up getting the first win, I feel like maybe that's enough to be jarred, because let's be real here, this is a Korean team. Like North America has shown struggles to the non-league regions, but never have we seen that out of Korea, and that might be enough for them to go, ooh, and just immediately tilt.
One of the things that actually I'm looking forward to in the series is the drafting, and for one particular reason. I think it was very telling that in the series against Dignitas, Tempest really neglected globals overall, and it felt that drafting did not focus as much on macro play as you would maybe expect. And at the same time, when I looked at the drafting on the side of the Red Canids going up against Roll20, I was very impressed. I think, especially when we're looking at the match that was played on Tomb, I expected them to do much better. And I think if their draft was executed a bit better, they could have really put Roll20 in an awkward position there. So the drafting on the side of Red Canids is quite strong. And on Tempest's side, I think it was a bit weaker against Dignitas. That could lead to some interesting situations now in the series.
Well, we'll keep an eye on their gameplay and their drafts, but first let's go ahead and check out these cheers as they continue to climb on up, as the HGC cheer system seems to be getting a lot of support here. 26,375,456 was the prior number. Now it's 26,494,676. We continue to climb up and up.
I'm very proud of you. We trained for this every day.
Every
and
day.
you made it through.
Believe
after
you
week.
did that.
It happens, man. I was not ready for that number to go up.
Okay.
It got me. It switches on me sometimes.
How that happened the first time is that
Okay.
we were in regular league play, and that happened for the first time, and you completely fumble it from start to finish.
Just dropped it. And Caldor just looks at me. He's a help. He's just like, what's the number again?
Caldor's not going to help you. You know that. You know how it works
But
up here.
ever since then, he's so try-hardy on it. He's like, I can do this.
We did it.
Well, the cheers continue to come in, and we do appreciate it. We really do. Any last thoughts on cheers before we move into the match?
I feel like you sit at home and just kind of like practice reading the first 100 characters of Pi just to make sure and prep for that moment.
That's my morning and evening prep, actually. In the morning and in my day with this, so that's how we go forward. All right, guys, let's get ready for this big match as it will be coming your way. I'm very excited to see where this best of 3 will be heading here. The first battleground will be Towers of Doom. Red Canids with the choice, which does mean that Tempest will have first pick.
I think any map where you can rely on getting advantage through macro split pressure is going to be advantageous for Red Canids, because it does feel, again, the team fighting and playstyle of Tempest feels very emotion-based, which is forcing a hard amount of team fighting maybe when it's not necessary. So baiting into the fight and focusing on getting that split push pressure.
While it is a battleground that Red Canids enjoy choosing, in their regional they did not have a winning record on it. So the comfort is there, but does the playstyle, the skill match that and the true understanding of the map? That's what we're here to find out.
Curious to see if we're going to get any more Browning play from the Red Canids. We saw it in the first series between them. And Tempest, they did bear it out in the first match against Dignitas, but it seems to have fallen off between Dig and Tempest. I think this is an opportunity for Red Canids to come in and utilize that to their advantage.
Jen and I actually talked about this a bit during the drafting between Dignitas and Roll20 too, because we both believe that Brightwing, while extremely strong right now, don't get angry, Gilly.
What are you? What's going to come out
She
next?
might be prioritized a little bit too high. Just a smidge.
Just a little bit.
Both of you off.
Wow.
Tim and I are going to take this draft from here on out.
We got
That's
this.
it. What is weird though?
Brad, you want to get a call?
What is weird, right, is that even there was Tracer Tass in every game, and yet she wasn't there. And that's what was strange to me. Yes, maybe.
She's still
I'll
good.
never admit it, but maybe. But it's strange that that point-and-click crowd control polymorph you could make longer, you can make vulnerable, reduce the armor, that wasn't there along with the Tracer Tass in that series.
But talking about the priority on Brightwing, they ban out immediately.
Yep.
I will say that I think that there is an argument that Brightwing is worthy of the first ban, not
Backing me
necessarily
up
the
now.
secondary ban. More so
Yeah.
that the first ban has a specific power play position that it can justify banning for the future, essentially, because currently it doesn't look like we have this is OP meta, and whenever that is the case, you can essentially, again, compositionally have a lot more forethought to those type of bans.
It's also, as we said, Brightwing definitely has a place, especially when you're talking about mobile characters. We have her as a great counterplay against ETC, Tracer, Genji. So many heroes here, and there's so many combos where she also excels. We talked about Genji plus Brightwing in the past to split an opponent's team. So getting an early ban in to work against that, I can agree with that more than having her as an insta first pick, if that makes any sense.
Yep. And
Is that
with
okay with you?
seeing the Brightwing ban, we're to be continued on this, guys. I'm going to have a stern
I
talk
think I'm
with
in
you
trouble, boys.
once we're in the game. We had the Tracer ban from Red Canids just to make sure that couldn't come out, because Tempest did have such high priority with that. But still, even with that, getting the Tassadar first pick, there's a lot of things that can still synergize with Tassadar for Tempest.
So here's the thing, I love the Tracer ban, especially because Tempest has already shown that they are completely willing to play Tracer without Tassadar and simply supplement, for example, Rhaegar in. So with Brightwing banned by Tempest, that has to be a concern. So that ban for the Red Canids is absolutely fantastic. Since Tempest still jumps into Tassadar, but eliminating Tracer, I think that's a great choice on the side of Latam team.
Normally, I'd be a little bit concerned to see an Abathur kind of committed to before an opponent has committed to any major strategy, because you can see them transition into that early game pressure, but the Tassadar, other than synergy maybe with a Greymane left up on the table, it's not that much pressure, nothing to be overly concerned about, and more importantly than anything, it scales to the late game, and Tempest is going to be relying again onto their team fighting, so to have a slow playstyle, very good team fight hero that I don't think Tempest is going to be able to capitalize on the early game weaknesses of him unless Red Canids forces, again, skirmishes or mercenary camps that they don't need to, and I feel like they have displayed here today that they have that kind of self-control to step away when necessary.
I wondered if we would see Dahaka there, but glad to not see the Dahaka and Tassadar, because that puts so much on the shoulders of the Hyper Carry, and it's also not something that H82 plays very much of. So instead, getting Greymane, that denies the Greymane-Abathur combination. Also gives somebody to get something out of the auto attack life leech that Tassadar gives, and Tempest is back with Muradin. I wonder if it'll be still Haymaker only, or if maybe we'll get Avatar this time.
I actually think that Muradin, I feel, is going to make that choice depending on how they smooth out the rest of the draft. How many frontliners we have there. They play Muradin as the main tank. Avatar, I think, is inevitable. But I really like the choice of going into Haymaker if you have him as the aggressor, especially after 16. It becomes a huge threat. And that was something that, for example, Dignitas had to deal with in the previous series, since ever since Haymaker was picked up, especially after 16, Rhaegar is under so much pressure on the other side. So that's a great choice here for them. But I also like what we see for the Red Canids. Sonya is going to be fantastic with Abathar, and they still have a lot of great choices for the copy hero.
I do like that ban coming out from Red Canids to go towards that Karazim anytime you can see it with that double support to be able to aid with that, but more importantly, any follow-up with the Muradin to be able to get that gank control. That is something we've seen so much out of the Eastern world. And more so than anything, I wanted to talk about Karazim's priority here today has been very, very high. Granted, so is Tracer, and it's a bit more of a counter, but we did kind of talk about where would Karazim, would he rise through the ranks here? And I feel like he has, at least today with the involvement rate, showed that he might have a future throughout the BlizzCon tournament.
I think we're going to see him a lot. I talked about it yesterday a little bit. Teams are more and more willing to go commit to not only Karazim, but just in general, extremely mobile composition that are super dive heavy. Brightwing plus Karazim, get a Genji into the mixer as well, Muradin to jump into the backline. There's so many super hyper aggressive compositions that we now see that I think at the tournament at BlizzCon and our final is going to have a huge impact.
A lot of different supports being played by Vieira, and even in the regional, trying to decide what he might play here. I would think it would be the Rhaegar, but no, they're going to get Lucio here. Smart move, just in case H82 wants to get Malthael here, because that is one of his highest played heroes.
And there's a lot of synergy within every single hero on the composition here of Red Canids. We highlighted the fact that their drafting seems to be drastically improved, and it only continues.
So much better.
This composition is very, very deadly. I mean, by no means would I sit there and go, it's a definite win, but I mean, it is going head-to-head with everything we see picked up by Tempest, and that just feels so unlike the past 2 years of competitive Heroes of the Storm.
Exactly. The first rotation already, Abathar and Sonya, so much synergy there, so much strength and threat in early and late game already combined. Lucio, I like it for the reasons that you mentioned. There could be a Malthael. At the same time, I have to admit, I would have loved Rhaegar here, as you alluded to at first, since not only does he have the synergy with Sonya and Arthas, but it's also another great copy target for Abathar. Of course, the double Arthas can be super strong and can go for Sonya, but we've seen what Mena, for example, did in the match against Roll20 with the copy on Rhaegar jumping to the backline, and the heals are also fantastic in that setup.
Yeah, it also would have been able to give the team a cleanse, but the Lucio is such a good synergistic hero for Arthas to get him into better position.
Absolutely.
And he'll need that with Stun Lock, with the Stun and Root now, adding in Malfurion, and now Falstad as a final pick for Tempest. Is this an old lockdown special?
It is the old lockdown special. I feel like he made his name in the competitive scene way, way, way back onto that Falstad. And with that pick, the global advantage that they're going to have onto their side, yes, Abathar is a global, but there's a lot of structural damage that Tempest can apply to the early game now that they have made that Malfurion Falstad transition. I'm a bit at a loss on what I want to see as this last pick. Definitely, I think, arranged. I don't like the idea of seeing them move into a full melee composition, especially into a Malfurion Falstad. Too much AoE crowd control and able to get a peel. But I want a ranged carry that synergizes with the Abathar and the mobility that Lucio is going to provide. It doesn't seem to be exactly what I wanted, but it is the meta hyper carry that we know and love so much here in competitive Heroes.
Yeah, I was for a second also considering that Lunara might be a good choice for them, simply because they have the Boops of Lucio available to create some additional space for her when she's attacked. She will, of course, be extremely vulnerable, but I like Vala a bit more just because the extra escape when Muradin makes this move is just absolutely needed. And also after 13, if you go Gloom, you can mitigate some of the damage that comes out of Tempest. And Jay Schroeder just plays that hero all the time, so.
That he does. So we now have our team set up between both of them. Looking at the draft, Gillyweed, on the left side, do you think the Red Canids have drafted well enough here to beat the likes of Tempest?
It's a really nice draft for Red Canids. It's really nice. It's Tempest. Until proven otherwise, I'm sorry, I have to go with the Korean team.
Dread?
I feel the exact same way. History, it does not repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme.
My heart definitely beats for the Red Canids. I think that draft is fantastic, but I think the execution is just going to be too strong on Tempest.
You don't think after the one win against Roll20, they have enough to take Tempest? Not even a little bit.
I want to believe!
Here's the thing. I absolutely believe that they can make... Like, if it was another team on the draft, I would say, yes, there's a great chance that they are taking down Tempest here. But I think that the skill between the players on both sides is just there's too much of a discrepancy for them to bridge. So
looking at Tempest, what's their game plan, Dread? How do they get a victory?
I mean, honestly, just bring the battle. Ultimately, make sure that you don't stack Gust in Twilight Dream. Make sure that you hit a minimum of 3 targets with Twilight Dream before it's used, and make sure that you dive Greymane, Muradin, and Tassadar Shields being used effectively. It's mainly focus fire and synergy, but that is what Korean teams are so very good at. Again, I think that it's going to be Red Canids has to bait them into a poor fight or concentrate and dominate on the macro game if they're really going to be successful.
All right, with it all said and done, it looks like our casters are ready. It's going to be Skimmy and Caleris bringing you the action.
That's right. Thank you very much, Trixler. It's as if Malthael has visited this room because this cast is soulless as we get into the next series to find out who's going to survive here in Group C. And what do you think of the drafts overall?
I mean, I'm absolutely on the same wavelength as what Caldor mentioned as well. I think that the Red Canids have a brilliant draft, really to sort of cater that aggression that we know and love from the Latin America region. But execution really is the key of this one. And the Korean team, despite what's happened so far, should be looking for that 2-0.
All right, let's launch into Towers of Doom to figure out who is going to be able to stay alive. It's all important here. A tall task here for Red Canids as Tempest is a dominant force, having previously been a world champion on the stage over in Sweden.
Absolutely, a very tall order there. Emotions will be running high for both of these teams, as whoever loses this one, that is the end of the road. They will be going home. No more chance to make it to Anaheim. Let's kick it off on the left-hand side, hailing from Latin America. This is Team Red Canids, led by the Vala player Murez, Jay Shred on Abather. You got Fury on Desonia, Tulin on Arthas, and Vieira on Lucio.
A good lineup, a good showing from them at the start of today, but can they keep going? Hyde on the right-hand side will be on Malfury, and H82 is on the Grey Mane. Next up, we have Lockdown on Tassadar, 2 left with Sign on Falstad, and then we have, of course, Honkono on the Muradin, and that rounds out Team Tempest.
Does indeed, and Honkono's already given us a bit of a window into what he can do in this era. Avatar is far too mainstream for his likings. He wants to show you what the Haymaker can do. And yes, against Dignitas, we didn't see the full threat that it can bring, but he's certainly warmed up.
2 in the front with Cold Fury's era here, and they will have to move back off the back of that. No deaths, so all good to start off with that small brawl that begins things off. Falstad separates himself up towards the top, but Honkono is trailing here, so they want to put a little bit of pressure on towards Sonya potentially.
They do indeed, and by using the Falstad, they're looking to try and patch that weakness that we've discussed in the earlier series, have some macro, have some global pressure, look to try and level things out in that 4v4 rotation that will be cycling from mid to bot. If a fight looks attractive, the global is utilized.
Honkono's all over the place already, from top all the way down to bottom, looking for an opportunity, misses his Stormbolt, has to go away.
That he does indeed. The Howling Blast does connect. They get a little bit of damage to start things off with, but nothing too hasty, too scary to start off. The B-step's coming out very early, and Honkono says, "You think you can B-step me? I am the king of disrespect."
I feel like that's going to be a short story throughout this entire series, actually.
Well, indeed. The guy's fashion sense. That alone is a spectacle to behold, and I believe it's a big reason why Blizzard changed those rules around the attire for these tournaments.
It's all Honkono's fault.
Has to be.
All right, lockdown there as we have Hyde and H82. All right, actually grabbing themselves first blood on Valor. Great little pickup there on the kill. H82 with the extra damage. They're looking for more. Tulin under pressure, but at the same time, potential turnaround. Does not get H82. Arthas goes down. It's a triple. Oh, very well done to start for Tempest.
We had a Mirrors, and then we didn't, and it all went wrong from there. The Tassadar shield, a complete outplay with the bait. The staggered health pool really coming into its own, and just like that, a triple kill to explosively start this into a triple alter phase.
Yeah, good start for Tempest, definitely. So now Red Canids are going to have to gain some semblance of normality, as I believe Sonya up towards the top is going to grab the first altar, but this should be just a 2 against 1. I'm not sure that Red Canids really want to venture too further out onto the map right now.
Absolutely not. They're going to start things off with a trade in the top lane. In the end, though, Tempest do get that advantage. B-steps are still continuing here. I mean, as you say, the theme really is there. Vieira saying, if we aren't going to win when it comes to execution or it comes to mechanics, we can win that mental warfare.
I don't know if you can, though, against someone like Honkono, right?
Guy is rock solid when it comes to mentality. I mean, when we saw him actually talking in the interview, the guy is a sight to behold. If you've never met him, this guy's personality, it's amazing.
Yeah, it transcends borders for sure. Down to the bottom, of course, really focusing on this bottom lane, getting the sapper camps, wanting to put pressure on towards that wall so they can try and hold onto it. Thankfully, both teams do have some range damage, so if anything goes away for them, they could quite easily grab it back. But all importantly, down the line, does Abatha go for that mule, as we've seen very, very well executed by the North American team.
Yeah, it definitely tends to be a strategy coming out of that North American region where it's all about turtling, looking to try and survive for as long as possible, reach that mid to late game stage as Fury Zero rocks up to the party, says I've got a spear and I'm not afraid to use it.
Just back up here for a moment. Oh, HGC going very, very deep there onto Mirrors, but he's going to be punished for it potentially. Very low. That's a kill going over to Red Canids.
Who needs talent tier level advantages when you can just force a fight like that? They say no 7, no problem. We will go for the fight, we will escort those sappers in, and we will be the ones coming in advantage.
I mean, it felt like a bold endeavor by H82 actually into like 4 of them, right?
It's a fantastic route, however, and the counterplay comes across just like that. Hyde says, no, 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 this is our bot lane. The B-steps once again continue here, so the mental warfare is definitely still rocking and rolling. Kona getting a little bit angsty there, saying, I will chuck a stun at your face. I'm not afraid to use it, but Sign finds some value. He says, yes, you might try and find a trade in the bot lane, but I am split pushing.
That's right, forced out of value top, and if he does all of that and then is able to fly down to these 2 altars, that's a very, very powerful little position that Tempest is holding onto, despite losing H82 on that 1 initial kill.
That's the one indeed. Yeah, level 7 actually is going to be the mule, so they are going to play for that mid to late game. And party mix picked up here by Lucia. We've seen a few adaptations where people prefer to go for the more instant burst.
Attempting for a 1-1 trade here to start things off. Viera stopped by Tassadar. Good little move, but Arthas is warding him away now. As Hyde's going to come in, poke. Not too bad at all. The fact that he has a Luna's Grace at 4 means that he can reach a little bit further with that Moonfire build. So slight adaptation, big damage coming in though, as Sonya will fall.
Once again, Hyde is just landing these roots, but the trade is there. 1-for-1 as Murden falls to the floor as well. It's a tank for a warrior. Tulin's bit off more than he can chew, and he's the second one to fall down. Actually a triple kill. All things said and done. Lucio, the next casualty in this little scrap here, and just like that, Tempest are really cementing their lead. They get the altar, and they're the ones, the driving force to hit 10 first, Claris.
It wasn't even a 1-for-1 skimming in the altars. That's crazy talk, for unfortunately, for Red Canids. And it really felt like if you give Tempest an inch, they'll take a mile.
That they will. Kilometers a mile, depends what part of the world you're from, up or down, and I say I'm from the down sound, so, well, just like that, yeah, as you say, the ultimates are locked on in. They get the Sapper camp. They can go for the push if they so desire. But Science says, nah, I'm back up to the top lane. Let me keep doing what I've been doing all day long.
Of course. Haymaker. Locked in.
What else would it be, though, Claris? This guy is all about the style, the swag, whatever you want to define it as. This guy has got it. He's got that pizzazz.
He definitely does. Let's see how he's going to make use of it, all importantly. On a map like this, short distances really are the name of the game. Not much room to work with. So depending on if it can go right, I mean, you can, in theory, haymaker someone into your team and use the Gust, as he uses it, to try and get some kills onto Fury Zero, and that is going to be a guaranteed takedown.
Speak of the Gust, and Sign will deliver like a couriered parcel. He says, here is your delivery package, and I will take that kill just like that. H82 in the bottom lane. He's going to be careful because he's gone for the Wiz and Jewelers. 3 stacks up on the line. Ooh. And that counter is reset back to 0.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Tempest, but it's a minor thing in the grand scheme of it. Not even 10 just yet, only now coming in for Red Canids. So we're going to have Sound Barrier, we're going to have Ghouls, we're going to have some Wrath, we're going to have Ultimate Evolution, and also that Rain coming in for Valor, looking for a little bit more in the mid.
This would be fantastic if Red Canids can find some kills here, allowing them to then rotate through to that altar phase in the bottom lane. It's only 1, and that would allow them in that chokehold. Obviously not too many ways to get into that, from the left, from the right. It would allow the Red Canids to try and get themselves back into it, because for the most part, Tempest have found that lead, and they've shown no signs of giving it up.
Murden arrives at the altar first. Onkono just waiting in the wings, looking maybe for an opportunity. Haymaker is off cooldown. Is he going to end up using it here? Putting on some pressure against Fury Zero. Chulin in the left-hand side here, next to Lockdown. Putting some pressure on Chulin himself. He has to pop his army. And Fury Zero still very deep against this Honkono. Taking a lot of damage. Throws a stun on. That's going to be the silence. And oh, H82 going deep for that kill.
Yeah, far too late when it came to that sand barrier there. And that's going to allow Tempest, if they so desire, to carry on pushing on through. Honkono goes in for the jump. He's actually quite low himself now in a 1v3 situation. Style or not, the B-steps surely are going to come out after this. As Sign gets the shield, he barrels and says, I want to go for that kill on towards Mirrors. He's down to half, but he manages to get out.
Honkono's a madman. That was a ridiculous attempt there to try and get something done. He did, though, buy enough time for his team in a 4v4 situation when he goes down to push onto that position. So his sacrifice was definitely not in vain. And another great few shots for Tempest.
Absolutely, I say, yeah, the guy is definitely all about that confidence. And confidence or complacency, 2 different words to try and describe what could have happened there, as now the siege begins in the bottom lane. The sappers are taken away from the Red Canids. They look for the push. The mule is doing whatever it can, but it's only going to delay the inevitable. This is just surely going to go down, Colaris.
That's exactly why they're pushing in as aggressively as they are. They know they have a prime opportunity right now to shut this down, get themselves that bell tower advantage, and then start just holding and locking down this position. I keep saying lockdown. There's no puns intended, honestly, but it just keeps happening when you've got Tempest on the side.
Tempest on the side. Look, they don't even need to use their own team spray. They just go for the basic Nexus logo. They are oozing when it comes to that one. The split push, it's not there right now for Tempest. They're not going to utilize that one. They want to try and get as much pressure with those sappers, maybe even escort some in, whilst Fury goes to the top lane to try and get them that all-important level 13 talent.
So this is where the pace now needs to quicken a little bit for Red Canids, where they have to wrestle this back, but at the same time they have to be wary as to what is going on in the rest of the map. At the moment, Abatha is not in the greatest position to be soaking some extra experience as B-steps abound, keep going on between Vieira and Honkona. I think they're probably friends outside the game as well. But overall, they need... There's so much urgency, especially with the two ults coming up.
Absolutely, right now you got a bit of a shock call decision of like maybe even Sign coming on down to the bot lane, trying to gust him away from this little front line. Honkona's going to jump on in with the double impact to try and start things off. Wrath is going to be popped as well. Army, too.
Yes.
A lot of ultimates have been baited out now by Tempest.
It's a great disengage for Tempest as well. They know they have this bell tower as power, and that's going to be the Archon popping in. And they're going to go in for this very heavily onto Fury Zera. Initial damage being done, but there goes the sound barrier, healing them up and keeping them strong.
Dimensional shift utilized as well as the Archon expires. A 3-man stun, actually a 2-man stun. Haymaker blasting Chulin in towards the pass as H82 gets aggressive. He cannot secure the kill. Will go for the throat, but he's looking, he's hungry, and he's not going to find it.
Attempts into the danger zone, and all the while, that was almost a 4v5 weird situation, obviously with Abatha being there, it's by the by. But while that was happening, look what Sign was up to.
Science is doing monkey business, right? He's just picking that one up, saying, I've got all the time in the world. He is going to come in, he's got the gust available, and Twilight Dream is still there. Haymaker up in 10 seconds, so keep your eye on where Honkona decides to try and fly.
Comes Sign doing a bit of damage on towards Fuel in there. H82 will go down. This is an opportunity for Red Canids to get a little bit of momentum back.
This is a brilliant opportunity, absolutely, because there's no 16 right now for Tempest.
Definitely so. Red Canids just grabbing themselves this mercenary camp. They will be able to get the bell tower wrestled off Tempest here.
They are limited with these opportunities, however, 9 shots remain on their core.
They're going to be very careful there to Tulin. He will get... Fury Zera gets knocked back through Tulin. So they're not going to lose any members, but overall, taking these sappers, getting themselves back the bottom lane. But look at this, Tempest, with the aggressive move in, despite being 4-on-5, they absolutely don't want to give him in.
So close there. Sign nearly going to get that boomerang across to try and take out Tulin. He thankfully juked on down. Otherwise, that kill would have been very free and very unforgiving.
Gonna stop for now. Lockdown taking a bit of damage, but they still fall back. So the one big play that Tempest did there was, okay, eventually this bell tower is gonna go away. But the fact that they delayed for as long as they did, with the potential of almost gaining 16 while that was going on, and then killing the sappers, meant they slowed down a lot of Red Canids' potential pressure on that bottom lane. So it's a very powerful move by Tempest.
The Tempest now have all of their ultimates available, and you can see Red Cannon's getting very aggressive there. Honkona jumping across that bridge saying, I want to fight. The Gus comes across, they want to definitely fight.
Big Gus comes out and a lot of damage coming in from the Archon as well. Lockdown on the backside. That's going to be a sound barrier here to try and keep them alive. They have to retreat on out. That's usually the power of Lucio, but as Sonya falls as well, that's 2 gone down.
2 gone down, double kill to start things off with as Honkona says, I want to carry on with this fight. This is looking good for me. It's looking good for my team. Haymaker is there if I so desire. But it might not even need to come out right now as the shield goes onto H82, looking to try and get another Wizen Jeweler stack back up to 2.
And don't you feel it was ambitious there for Red Canids to be pushing where they were, considering they were a talent down?
I mean, straight aggression from the Latin American team. They've shown that they can definitely duel with the best, but it's that consistency which the devs were discussing.
All right, well, a capture, not even a capture there, unfortunately, for Vieira, as Tassadar, especially with the level 7, makes it easier for him to land those storms when need be, and will continue to do so.
Anyway, Red Canids can really get into this one. It's if they force that hard engage, and it's going to come very shortly. The 16 is on the horizon. Honkona realizing that. He jumps in, he gets the stun, he gets the Haymaker, putting Mirrors into a bit of a compromising position, walks into a root. He's going to get collapsed on, he's running away! He still survives though, Colaris, and now the chase comes around, his Red Canids can look to re-engage.
And it looks like we're seeing here, Sign going for the gust here, trying to get the retreat on out, knowing that the other few members were a little bit low. As long as you can deal with Fury Zera down to the bot, he's in no man's land, completely isolated from his team. A great pick by Tempest.
Tempest, if they win this fight, they win the game. One shot remains on this core right there. Twilight Dream to start things off. Up is the second casualty. Hong Kong jumps into backline. Piercing stun says hello.
Hammer is under a lot of pressure. H82 ripping into shreds. There's the sound barrier. H82 almost goes down there. A bit of a boot. Oh, with the Stomple and the Haymaker for good measure. Tempest could quite easily take the boss and round out this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that Lucio and Abath can do at this stage of the game. Very strong in the early game, but definitely at this part, it's not going to do too much. A clone onto Lucio, double dropping the beat, and they will need to drop some beats to compose themselves, as this is looking like game number 1, set and done.
Very well done by Tempest to take the first game here in this series. And overall, they really didn't give Red Canids much of an opportunity to get back into it after they took like the first 4 or 8 shots available to them.
I mean, they delayed and they delayed and they delayed and said, look, we'll win. Are we actually going to fully ramp on up? They were always looking for those fights, scrappy as they may have been, but they were always punished. And the fact is, your core progressively falls on down. And by the time they look to try and force these fights, their core's within, 5 to 10 shots. It's too little too late.
All right, well, we're going to head back to the analysis desk to see what they think of game number 1 on Towers of Doom.
The analysts were correct in their predictions, so I will go ahead and give 100 points to Hufflepuff. Good job, guys. You earned those points. But it looks like...
I'm definitely Gryffindor.
I'm Hufflepuff, so I'll take it.
All right, I knew something was going to happen here.
That's how I feel.
So can I just say, it feels like on Towers of Doom Korean teams, their mentality, how good they're feeling, is directly translated with where the heck they're standing in regards to the kill zone.
Yeah.
MVP Black Chin drinking inside the kill zone. Hong Kono goes in, drops the piercing bolt. They were flirting that line throughout the game, like all of the game, while Sign just went around and did his thing.
It was amazing performance, honestly. It just felt like they were very comfortable with going, we think we're the better team, and they executed proper. Maybe a couple of blips here and there on both sides of the battlefield, but at the end of the day, it felt very much Tempest was just, we're better, and they